In the heart of Boston, where winter winds whisper through historic streets, an extraordinary tale of kindness and destiny unfolds. Meet Marcus, a skilled mechanic who lost everything during tough times and now lives in a shelter. Despite his circumstances, his knowledge of cars and unwavering spirit remain intact. When fate brings him face to face with Jonathan Pierce, a tech company CEO with a broken-down car in a snowstorm, neither man realizes how this chance encounter will transform both their lives. This story proves that sometimes our greatest adventures don't require traveling far, they simply require the courage to help others when we have nothing but our skills to offer. Get ready for an inspiring journey that will remind you why kindness is the greatest superpower of all. On a freezing December evening, Boston's financial district was nearly deserted. Marcus, wrapped in his worn jacket, noticed a luxury car pulled over, hazard lights blinking. Despite the cold numbing his fingers, his mechanic's instinct kicked in when he saw smoke rising from under the hood. Jonathan Pierce stood helplessly by his car, his designer suit offering little protection against the bitter cold. His phone showed no signal, a rare technological failure in the worst possible moment. He had an important presentation the next morning that could change his company's future. Need some help? Marcus approached cautiously, his voice gentle despite his rough appearance. Jonathan hesitated, but something in Marcus's eyes reflected sincerity and expertise. I was a certified mechanic for 15 years. Marcus added, sensing the hesitation. Marcus quickly identified the issue, a blown head gasket combined with a failing alternator. Using nothing but a small toolkit he carried and his ingenuity, he managed to create a temporary fix that would at least get the car to a service station. You're a lifesaver, Jonathan said, reaching for his wallet. But Marcus shook his head. Just helping another human being? We all need that sometimes. As Marcus turned to leave, Jonathan noticed the shelter logo on his backpack. The entire interaction lasted less than an hour, but it would set in motion events that neither man could have predicted. As Marcus walked back toward the shelter, snowflakes beginning to fall, he had no idea that his life was about to change forever. The next morning, Marcus was having his usual breakfast at the shelter when a sleek black limousine pulled up outside. The shelter's coordinator, Mrs. Thompson, rushed in with wide eyes. Marcus, there's someone here to see you. Outside stood Jonathan Pierce, looking quite different from the stranded businessman of the previous night. His presence drew curious stares from passers-by. I couldn't stop thinking about last night, Jonathan began. Your skills are exceptional, and I have a proposition for you. Jonathan explained that his tech company, Future Drive, was developing innovative electric vehicles, but they were struggling with practical mechanical expertise. We have brilliant software engineers, but we need someone who understands cars from the ground up, someone with real-world experience. Marcus listened, hardly believing his ears. Are you offering me a job? He asked cautiously. Better, Jonathan replied. I'm offering you a partnership, a chance to help design the future of transportation. But first, I want you to see something. He gestured toward the limousine. As they drove through Boston's streets, Jonathan revealed that he'd spent the morning researching Marcus's background. He'd discovered Marcus's impressive track record at his former garage and the circumstances that led to his current situation. A medical emergency that drained his savings. The limousine pulled up to a massive modern building with the Future Drive logo. Ready for an adventure? Jonathan asked as Marcus stared at the building in awe. Little did Marcus know, this was just the beginning of an incredible journey that would challenge everything he thought he knew about himself and the future of technology. Inside Future Drive's facility, Marcus's eyes widened at the sight of a massive prototype lab. But his amazement quickly turned to concern when he saw what the engineers were working on. Their revolutionary electric vehicle design had a fatal flaw. One that could cause catastrophic failures if not addressed. Your team's battery configuration will overheat under pressure, Marcus explained, grabbing a marker and sketching on a nearby whiteboard. The room fell silent as he detailed the potential issues, drawing from his years of hands-on experience with various engines. Jonathan watched intently as Marcus broke down complex mechanical concepts into simple terms that even the software engineers could understand. This was exactly why he needed someone like Marcus, someone who could bridge the gap between theoretical design and practical application. But then came the unexpected twist. One of the senior engineers, Dr. Sarah Chen, stepped forward with tears in her eyes. "That's exactly what happened to my brother," she revealed. "He was testing a prototype electric vehicle for another company last year. The battery overheated and Her voice trailed off. The room grew heavy with emotion as they realized the significance of Marcus's insight. He hadn't just identified a design flaw, he'd potentially saved lives. Jonathan looked at Marcus with newfound respect, realizing he'd found not just a mechanic, but someone who could revolutionize their entire approach to vehicle safety. "Marcus," Jonathan announced, "I'm not just offering you a job anymore. I want you to lead our safety innovation department." The engineering team erupted in supportive applause while Dr. Chen wiped away tears. Marcus stood there, overwhelmed by the sudden turn of events. From sleeping in a shelter to leading a safety department at a cutting-edge tech company, all because he stopped to help a stranded driver. However, Marcus's transition wasn't without obstacles. Some board members questioned Jonathan's decision to hire someone without formal education. The media caught wind of the story, and while many celebrated it, others scrutinized Marcus's background. During his first week, Marcus discovered that Future Drive's ambitious timeline for launching their new vehicle line clashed with the necessary safety modifications. He faced a difficult choice: stay quiet and go along with the original plan, or risk his new position by pushing for delays to implement proper safety measures. In a crucial meeting, Marcus stood before the board, his shelter backpack now replaced with a briefcase, but his integrity unchanged. "I understand the pressure to launch quickly," he began, his voice steady despite his nerves. "But I didn't come here to just have a job. I came here to make a difference." He proceeded to demonstrate, using a small-scale model, how their current design could be modified to prevent overheating while actually improving efficiency. The presentation reflected hours of late-night work, combining his practical experience with newly acquired technical knowledge. Dr. Chen stood beside him, providing technical validation to his proposals. Together, they represented a powerful combination of practical wisdom and scientific expertise. The boardroom sat in stunned silence as Marcus concluded his presentation with a simple but powerful statement. "Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is slow down to ensure we're moving in the right direction." As Marcus settled into his new role, he struggled with imposter syndrome. During lunch breaks, while other executives dined at upscale restaurants, he often found himself sitting alone in the company cafeteria, reflecting on his journey. One day, Dr. Chen joined him, carrying her own lunch. "You know," she said, "some of us were skeptical when Jonathan first brought you in, but watching you stand up to the board, prioritizing safety over profits, that's something we rarely see in this industry." Their conversation was interrupted by a young intern who approached Marcus with tears in her eyes. "My dad was a mechanic," she said. "He always said the industry needed more people who understood cars from the ground up. He would have loved to see someone like you in this position." These moments of connection helped Marcus realize that his background wasn't a weakness. It was his greatest strength. He began organizing weekly workshops where engineers could get their hands dirty, learning the practical aspects of vehicle mechanics. Jonathan observed these changes with satisfaction. During a private meeting, he confessed, "When my car broke down that night, I was actually heading to a meeting about selling the company. We had the technology, but we were missing the heart. You brought that heart back." But just as Marcus was finding his footing, a competitor announced a similar vehicle concept, promising a faster launch date. The pressure to rush their product to market intensified, testing Marcus's resolve and the company's commitment to safety. The competitor's announcement sent shockwaves through Future Drive. Stock prices dipped, and investors began calling frantically. During a tense emergency meeting, Marcus noticed something odd in the competitor's promotional materials. Their battery design looked eerily familiar. Dr. Chen confirmed his suspicions. The design was nearly identical to Future Drive's original flawed concept. They're making the same mistake we almost made, Marcus realized, his concern growing. An ethical dilemma presented itself. Should they warn their competitors about the potential safety issues, potentially giving away their own advances, or stay quiet and let market competition take its course? During this crisis, Marcus received an unexpected visit from Mrs. Thompson from the shelter. She brought news that touched him deeply. Inspired by his story, several tech companies had started apprenticeship programs for shelter residents. "You've started something bigger than yourself," she told him, showing him photos of former shelter residents now in training programs. "Your journey is giving hope to others." That evening, as Marcus worked late in his office, he discovered something unexpected in the company's old files. The original battery design had a crucial safety feature that had been overlooked, one that could be shared without compromising Future Drive's new technology. Jonathan found Marcus excitedly drafting a proposal. "We can help them and help ourselves," Marcus explained. "If we approach this right, we could set new industry safety standards and save countless lives." The decision they would make next would not only affect both companies but potentially reshape the entire electric vehicle industry. As Marcus worked on his proposal, a surprising connection emerged. The intern who had shared the story about her mechanic father turned out to be a programming prodigy. She approached Marcus with an innovative software solution that could help monitor battery temperature more effectively. Meanwhile, Dr. Chen revealed that her brother's accident had inspired her to create a non-profit organization dedicated to vehicle safety education. She invited Marcus to be a guest speaker at their upcoming conference, representing both his journey and Future Drive's commitment to safety. The story of Marcus's rise from helping a stranded CEO to leading safety innovation began spreading through social media. Other companies started reaching out, interested in his unique approach to combining practical mechanics with cutting-edge technology. Jonathan noticed another unexpected development. Employee morale had significantly improved. The weekly hands-on workshops had broken down barriers between departments. Engineers were talking to mechanics, designers were collaborating with safety experts, and innovation was flourishing. One morning, Marcus arrived to find his old toolkit displayed prominently in the company lobby, alongside a plaque reading, "Sometimes the simplest tools, in the right hands, can change the future." But with increased visibility came increased scrutiny. A tech journalist began investigating Marcus's past, particularly the circumstances that led to his time in the shelter. The question loomed: would his complete story help or harm the company's mission? Through it all, Marcus continued his habit of walking through the city after work, remembering his journey and staying grounded despite his success. The industry conference was approaching, and Future Drive was set to unveil their revolutionary safety system. However, the morning before the presentation, Marcus received an urgent call. The competitor company had rushed their vehicle to market, and reports were coming in of batteries overheating during test drives. The media was buzzing with speculation, and the entire electric vehicle industry faced a potential crisis of public confidence. Future Drive's stock began to fluctuate as investors worried about the impact on the entire sector. In the midst of this chaos, Marcus's past suddenly became public. The investigating journalist published a story, but not the hit piece everyone feared. Instead, it detailed how Marcus had lost everything helping pay for a former employee's medical bills at his old garage. The article went viral, highlighting how his commitment to putting people first had remained consistent throughout his journey. Dr. Chen rushed into Marcus's office with breaking news. Their competitors had issued an emergency recall. The industry was in panic mode, and all eyes turned to Future Drive's upcoming presentation. Jonathan called an emergency meeting. "This is our moment," he said, looking at Marcus. "Not just to showcase our technology, but to change how the entire industry approaches safety." Marcus stood at his office window, watching the sunset over Boston's skyline. Tomorrow, he would step onto the biggest stage of his life. In his hand, he held his old shelter ID card, a reminder of where he'd been and why his mission mattered. The morning of the conference, Marcus faced a crucial decision. The marketing team had prepared a presentation focusing on Future Drive's superiority over their struggling competitor. But Marcus had drafted an alternative speech, one that would change the industry's entire approach. In the green room, tension mounted. Several board members argued for the competitive angle, seeing an opportunity to dominate the market. "This is business," one insisted. "We need to capitalize on their failure." Jonathan stood quietly, watching Marcus stare at two USB drives on the table, one containing each version of the presentation. The whole room fell silent when Marcus finally spoke. "When I was in the shelter," he began, "I learned that success isn't about rising above others. It's about lifting everyone up." He picked up his chosen drive and headed toward the stage. Dr. Chen intercepted him before he reached the curtain. "My brother would be proud of what you're about to do," she whispered, squeezing his arm supportively. The auditorium was packed with industry leaders, journalists, and tech enthusiasts. Screens showed the live stream reaching hundreds of thousands of viewers worldwide. Among the audience, Marcus spotted Mrs. Thompson and a group from the shelter, their presence reminding him of how far he'd come. As he was introduced, Marcus caught sight of his reflection in the teleprompter glass. Gone was the uncertain man from the shelter. In his place stood someone who understood that true leadership means choosing what's right over what's easy. Marcus stepped up to the podium, his heart pounding. The spotlight felt warm on his face as he looked out at the sea of expectant faces. But instead of launching into his prepared speech, he set his notes aside. "A year ago, I was fixing a car in a snowstorm," he began. "Today, I'm here to talk about more than just Future Drive's new technology. I'm here to propose a revolution in how we approach innovation." The screens behind him lit up, but not with the expected competitive analysis. Instead, they showed a split screen. On one side, the basic toolkit he'd used that snowy night. On the other, Future Drive's advanced safety system. "The solution to our industry's challenges isn't about competition. It's about collaboration," Marcus continued. "Today, Future Drive is opening our safety protocols to the entire industry. We're making our temperature regulation technology open source." A murmur of shock rippled through the audience. In the front row, several board members shifted uncomfortably, but Jonathan stood up, nodding in approval. "We're also announcing the creation of the Universal Safety Alliance," Marcus revealed. "A partnership between manufacturers, mechanics, and engineers to establish industry-wide safety standards." Dr. Chen joined him on stage, carrying what looked like an ordinary car battery. "This prototype," she explained, "represents thousands of hours of collaboration between practical mechanics and theoretical engineers. It's not just safer, it's more efficient." The presentation shifted to live demonstrations. Marcus invited mechanics from local garages to join certified engineers in showing how the new safety systems worked. The audience watched, captivated, as decades of hands-on experience merged with cutting-edge technology. "But we're not stopping there," Marcus announced. "Future Drive is launching an international apprenticeship program. We're opening our doors to mechanics, shelter residents, and anyone with the passion to learn. Because innovation doesn't just come from laboratories, it comes from life experience." The energy in the room was electric. Journalists were furiously taking notes, industry leaders were leaning forward in their seats, and social media was exploding with positive reactions. But Marcus wasn't finished. He had one more announcement that would transform not just the industry, but countless lives. "Today, I'm proud to announce the Future Drive Foundation," Marcus declared, his voice strong with purpose. "We're dedicating 10% of our profits to establishing technical training centers in communities across the country. These centers will offer free education, focusing on both traditional mechanics and emerging technologies." The screens displayed architectural plans for the first center, to be built right next to the shelter where Marcus had stayed. Mrs. Thompson wiped tears from her eyes as she recognized the location. "But this isn't just about Future Drive," Marcus continued. "I'm thrilled to announce that 5 other major companies have already joined our initiative." The logos of industry leaders appeared on screen, accompanied by their commitments to the project. Jonathan stepped forward, taking his place beside Marcus. When I met Marcus that snowy night, I thought I was getting my car fixed. Instead, I found the future of our industry, a future where success is measured not just in profits, but in positive impact. The intern who had shared her father's story walked onto stage, carrying a small robot she had programmed using Marcus's mechanical principles. "This is what happens when we combine experience with innovation," she demonstrated, as the robot performed complex diagnostic tests on an engine. "We stand at a crossroads," Marcus concluded. "We can compete in a race to be first, or we can collaborate in a journey to be better. Future Drive chooses the latter, because true innovation isn't just about creating new technology, it's about creating positive change." The audience rose in a standing ovation. Industry leaders were already reaching for their phones, eager to join the initiative. Social media exploded with the hashtag #FutureDriveChange, sharing Marcus's story and the company's bold new direction. Dr. Chen's safety organization pledged to provide curriculum support for the training centers. Local mechanics in the audience were volunteering to become instructors. Even the competing company's CEO approached the stage, hand extended in partnership. As Marcus looked out at the cheering crowd, he saw not just applause for a presentation, but celebration of a new beginning. For the industry, for countless future students, and for anyone who ever doubted that one person's kindness could change the world. 1 year later, Marcus stood outside the first Future Drive training center, watching as students filed in for their morning classes. The building, modern yet welcoming, had already trained hundreds of aspiring technicians and engineers. The industry had transformed. The Universal Safety Alliance had become the gold standard for electric vehicle certification. More importantly, the collaboration between companies had accelerated innovation beyond what competition alone could have achieved. Back at Future Drive headquarters, Marcus's old toolkit remained in its display case, but now surrounded by photos of training center graduates, each one a story of transformation similar to his own. The company's stock had soared, proving that doing good could also mean doing well. Dr. Chen's safety organization had expanded globally, while the intern who shared her father's story had become head of Future Drive's AI diagnostics division. Mrs. Thompson now served as an advisor for the Foundation's Shelter Outreach program. Marcus still took his evening walks through Boston, often passing the spot where his journey began. Sometimes, he'd stop to help stranded motorists, remembering that every act of kindness could spark unexpected adventures. Please rate this story from 1 to 10 in the comments below, and let us know where you're watching from. Your support means the world to us. Remember, just like Marcus, you never know how one kind act might change the world. See you in our next adventure.